I think today the average citizen faces two challenges. It's actually a lack of information when it comes to political process and elections and voting, as well as distinct misinformation. Communications have become such a ubiquitous part of our life. We're getting information from everywhere, and for the average citizen, it's information overload sometimes, and it's also hard to determine what is right, not only in a factual sense, but also what is right for the way that that individual lives and what they believe and who they associate with. And so I think that it is incumbent upon the citizenry to educate themselves. And I think that the more civically engaged they can be in the voting process, in public service, volunteer service, national service, the more they are going to be tied to the federal government and really take a stake in the political process and the goings-on of their leadership in Washington.
You know, something, I always come back to like me, like what can I do, you know, within the small circle of influence that I have. And I keep coming back around to what language, what words am I choosing to describe the politicians? How am I describing the dialogue? Am I demonizing or putting down or condemning people of the other side, you know? And so, you know, I think first the change has to start with me. And so this conversation's got me thinking a lot about how I speak of maybe someone on the other side of an issue. And, you know, once I begin to explore that and begin change with myself, then I think that's where it begins, actually.
There are a lot of interesting questions. I tend to look to making government work in a more competitive fashion. So, for example, you know, if I have a local government, if that local government is given more autonomy and more clear authority, this is one reason why in a lot of big cities, like the city I live in, New York City, mayors have now been given more control over local schools. And part of the reason is that, well, we used to have these school board elections, but not a lot of people would participate in them. Whereas now, the mayor can credibly say, you know, I have a lot of control and authority over these schools. So if you like how the schools are going, you know, I'm partly responsible for that. If you don't like, you know, how our schools are performing, then you ought to punish me for it.
So often I'm asked, well, what can we do about it? Give us some simple solutions. We want to change it. And we want to really mitigate, you know, the fear and the despair and the hopelessness some people feel about the inability to change, you know, the environment and the gridlock in Washington. So this gives them a means by which to address these issues, to network, to use the social media, but also coming up with concrete recommendations. What do they think should be done to address this issue, both at home and in Washington? And so that's what's so, I think, vital about this forum. And for people to have the ability to contribute and give voice to that change and build, you know, a grassroots movement, similar to a lot of other groups that have done that and fan the flames of polarization. So too can they turn the tables and build an instrument for supporting compromise and consensus.